Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Anjali. Good morning, Priya, whoever is there. So, we'll just begin. We won't start this class with a story, but we'll get a story in our paper one course. Got it? Uh, in paper one class, we'll talk about one story, and here we have to really try to finish this 2022, right? Maybe we'll cover 30 plus question today if possible, and then uh, tomorrow we'll try to cover 50 and finish it as soon as possible. Anyway, so I hope everyone is doing good, and I hope there is no problem uh, before whatever the question we have discussed before. So today we are going to start our class with question number 21. Remember, this is from 2022 shift first. And question number 21, again it is about Arun Kolatkar, and you have to find out which statements among them are correct. And the statements here, A from A says Arun Kolatkar uses colloquial speech in his poem. Is it true? Kolatkar envisioned abstract qualities to paint a picture of the life of his own kind. And the poem Boat Ride by Kolatkar talks about a ride in the Ganges. And again, private poem in public garden is composed by Dilip Chitre. And in Ethiopia is a poem on Africa by Arun Kolatkar. So you have to find the correct statements. So anyone can tell me what do you know about Arun Kolatkar? Anyone? So everybody knows that Arun Kolatkar is an Indian poet, and he writes in both Marathi and English. And you should understand his poem is mostly humorous, and it talks about everyday matters. And Kolatkar is the only Indian poem other than Kabir to be featured on the World Classic Titles of New York Review of Books. And we know Arun Kolatkar for what? Jajuri, right? And Jajuri also won Commonwealth Poetry Prize in 1977. And his Marathi verse collection Bhijki Wahi won a Sahitya Academy Award in 2005, and it is an anthology of his work, collected poems in English, and edited by Arvind Krishna Malhotra. And he won also the Kusum Raj Puraskar given by Maratha Vad Sahitya Parishad and in 1991. Anyway, this is all about Arun Kolatkar, and we know Arun Kolatkar has written some of the poetry collection, starting with Arun Kolatkarcha Kavita, which was published in 1977. That was his first collection. And again, then one is Chirmiri, which was published in 2004. And Bhijki Wahi, that which won Sahitya Academy Award in 2005. And again, there is one Dhruan, and that is, or drone, that is published in 2004. So anyway, so here we are talking about all these statements, and now we have talked about Arun Kolatkar, who he is and what his contribution is. And remember, we have Dilip Purushottam Chitre, who was one of the foremost Indian politics and critics to emerge in the post-independence India. So one, we know that he talked everyday life, like colloquial speech is like everyday kind of language. And as we know, because of his background, that Arun Kolatkar uses uh, you know uses everyday matters uh, and in humorous way. So we can just say A must be there, and Kolatkar envision abstract quality to paint picture of the life of his own kind, and that is also true. So A, B is true, and we can find the options here. So A, B is true. D, private poems in public garden is composed by Dilip Chitra, and that is true. So A, B, and D are true. And here is the correct explanation that I told you, that Arun Kolatkar is Indian poet who wrote in Marathi and English, and his poems found humor in everyday matters. And Kolatkar is the only Indian poem then Kabir features. Anyway, his collection of English poetry, we know about Jajori, which won the Commonwealth Poetry Prize. This is quite important work because of the awards that he has won. And question number 22, we have to find who writes what. So simple, the rights of it is the actually date of publication, masks, island, the horizons, and the rites of passage. First of all, I'm gonna ask you a couple of things related to it. Rites of passage, can you tell me who wrote this? And also mask, island, these are all work by one particular author, and that is Brathwaite, and it is written here in the question. Edward Brathwaite wrote all these works, and we have to find which one is written. Again, I said you have to remember always first and last work of the particular author, poet, or dramatist. So Edward Brathwaite wrote 4 plays of primary school. That was his first work, but here he is talking about the other works, right? O'Daly's Choice, which was published in 1965, that was his again second work. Third work is The Rites of Passage, which was published in 1967. So Rites of Passage 1967, and Mask is the fourth work, which was published in 68, and the order is, and also The Island, published in 69. So we have, and The Arrivant, another work which was published in 73. So remember the order of the work, starting with The Rites of the Passage, Mask, Island, and The Arrivants. This is the order of his work. So in that way you will be able to answer. And you should also know about the particular biographical background of the poet, author, or dramatist. So here Edward Brathwaite is who he was actually born in Barbados, Caribbean, and he was educated in Harrison College. A little bit explanation is there about Brathwaite, and here it is, and we have the list of the work. Let me see, I didn't see if you can hear it. Okay, Priya is also here, good. So anyway, so question number 23 is in your screen again, and here, which of the following is not a part of Amitabh Ghosh's Abyss trilogy? And this question they have asked in 2017, 18, and also 21. And remember that this is very important. Amitabh Ghosh's Abyss trilogy is quite important. It is asking which is not the part of. Everybody knows, starting with Flood of Fire, Sea of Poppies, and River of Smoke. These 3 are the part of Abyss trilogy, and you have to, there are not only Abyss trilogy, but he has written 2 more trilogies. That is very important. The Calcutta Chromosome is quite important also because of there was one disease, right, which uh, actually they are talking about that pandemic. So correct explanation is ibis trilogy is the work of historical remember, ibis trilogy is an historical fiction, of course, by Amitabh Ghosh, and consisting the novel Sea of Poppies, starting with River of Smoke and at the end Flood of Fire. And the work is post colonial literature. The story is set across the Indian Ocean origin during the 1830s in lead up to the first Opium War. And the Opium War, it particular focus on the trade of opium between India and China and the trafficking of gramatias to Mauritius. And the series has received critical acclaim. And not important here, the Calcutta Chromosome is also by Amitabh Ghosh, and it is set in Calcutta, and it talks about it's this novel is kind of science fiction, and it was set in future, and it is a medical thriller that dramatizes the adventure of people who are brought together by a mysterious turn of events. The book is loosely based on the life, and because they have asked about that, Sir Roland Ross, who won the Nobel Prize for the scientist, actually it's in the novel, uh, and breakthrough in malaria. I told you it was about some disease, and the novel was the recipient of the Arthur Clarke C. Arthur Clarke Award, and that award is important. Why? Because it has given for the science fiction. Question number 24, Aristotle. I hope you have studied that in our criticism class about Aristotle. And what does Aristotle mean by language with pleasurable accessories in his definition of tragedy? So can you answer? A language full of pompous vocabulary they want, or actually they are talking about spectacle? No, it's talking about language which is dinia or dialogues, right? And a language full of pompous vocabulary, did he talk about? Or embellished language, a language full of rhythm and harmony, of course it should be there. A language superadded with a song was there, like Melos always in the tragedies. So according to him, A, B is the only correct option. A language full of pompous and embellished language, pleasurable accessories he's talking about. With that word, they are all also mentioned, like the language of full of rhythm, but according to this phrase we have to find. So a language full of pompous vocabulary and embellished language. And here the explanation: language, rhythm and melody and stock for Aristotle make up the matter of poetic creation. And where the epic poem uses the language alone, the playing of the lyre involves a rhythm and melody. Of course, some poetic forms blend all materials. For example, Greek tragic drama included a singing chorus, so music and language were all parts of the performance. So I told you, every single thing are important, but here is asking about one particular phrase, that is language with pleasurable accessories. So based on that we have to answer. Got it? So these points also convey the standard view, and also the correct convey what dramatic musical creation, the topics of the poetic in ancient hand and museum. Anyway, there is one work, Aristotle Poetic Concept and Analysis of Poetry, English. That anyway, the question number 25, simple. Tolkappiyam is a book of grammar and poetic. This question was very confusing, and whoever knew Tamil, they would be able to, they were able to answer it correctly, but as who are from other part of the country, they are not familiar with it, they might have made mistake. So remember, and also through the name we can understand it can be Tamil or Malayalam, right? So Tolkappiyam is Tamil book of grammar, so that we have to remember. Anyway, here is the explanation of Tolkappiyam, and what is it is called. Ancient poem is the most ancient extant Tamil grammar text and the oldest extant long work of literature. Now we have started with assertion and reason, and here in the assertion, the Marxist, when it comes to Marxist, you should remember that Frankfurt School we talked about, no, in our previous classes we talked about Frankfurt School, and there that's what Marxism is. Marxism represents Marxism as a scientific account of social change. So what do you think? Is this a statement correct? And seems like Marxists represent Marxism, of course, as a scientific account of social change, and that is true. And the reason it says we have to now add because. If the question is like if the correct explanation of particular thing, so in that way, reason is the Marxist ideology believes that culture, because we have to add because, right? The Marxists represent Marxism as scientific account of social change because the Marxist ideology believes that the culture mirrors social life, and that the artist is an engineer of human soul educating the working class. So it basically really represents the explanation of the assertion. So we can confidently answer that the both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. We have little bit explanation for it. We'll just move to the highlighted point, which is important. Marxism literary criticism emerged through the theories of class struggle that we know through economics, politics, power and all. So the thought behind Marxist criticism that works of literature are mere product of history that can be analyzed by looking at the social and material condition in which they were constructed. And in Marx Capital states, simple one quote, with that you will understand better about it. The mode of production of material life determines altogether the social, political and intellectual life process, and it is not the consciousness of a man that determines their being, but on the contrary, their social being that determines their consciousness. And question number it is about Mina Alexander poetry, and you have to find which are not written by Mina Alexander. So you might probably find 3 works of Mina Alexander, and you have to answer which one is not written by Mina Alexander. So we'll just move to the explanation quickly and see. Answer says A, B and C and E. Actually it has not written by. So the River of Bride is actually by poems by Mina Alexander. A little bit confusion, are not, and here answer is given something different. So anyway, we'll just move to the explanation. You just have to find which one is not written by. So we see articulate silence is not written by Mina Alexander. So B is the option where we can find in 3, all of them 3 is A. We can remove 1, 2. So we are left with actually 5 options are there. So that is the correct written by, and not written by is B, which is articulated silence. And of course one work is also there, A Time to Change, and that is by Nizical. Nissim Ezekiel. So B and E here is the option. So that one is okay, that we have to add it. I'll add it here. Got it. So River and Bride is by Meena Alexander, and Raw Silk is by Meena Alexander, and Stone Roots. All these are by Meena Alexander. We can see the explanation. River and Bridge is written by Meena Alexander. Articulated Silence is not by Meena Alexander, but it is by King Kok Cheong. I don't know how to say. Anyway, Raw Silk, a book by Meena Alexander. It demonstrates the rare blend of an acute, utterly contemporary intelligence with a sensuality that is a radical way of processing information. Stone Roots, 1980, by Meena Alexander. A Time to Change, it is by Nissim Ezekiel. So it is a first book of poem which was published by the Fortune Press. So that these works are quite important also. And sometimes you might face this kind of an, as Anjali says, or maybe Priya, that she has some problem with Indian writing in English. I think it was Priya who says. And for that, Priya, what you need to do, there are a couple of books that might help you. But as I said, whatever is there in the this PYQ, you have to really note down or take a screenshot whatever topic is from Indian writing. So you can take a screenshot for that also, or I'll just do one thing. I'll just give you in WhatsApp. So I have just posted this in WhatsApp. You can check. So whatever is in Indian, we'll just post in the group. So you will have a little bit more. You can just go and look about it in Google. Got it? So I have posted this in your WhatsApp group, and we'll just move to the question number 28. So we talked about Philip Sidney's, right? Philip Sidney's other work, something critical aspects of his literary career. And here they're talking about Arcadia. And Arcadia is one of the important work that they ask. And here is asked, was influenced by what? Is it the metaphysical poem? Definitely not. Or it is about Arthurian legend? No, not at all. And the Italian painting of Veronza. So Italian and Spanish, if you are a reader, you might make mistake in between that, because these two you can eliminate easily. And through that, actually the answer is the Spanish romance of Montemayor. And why? Because the Countess of Pembroke, Arcadia by Philip Sidney, which was published in 1950, and it was dedicated to Mary Herbert, the Countess of Pembroke. That name you have to remember. And it actually was a work in the new genre of prose romance, and it traces the adventure of Prince Pyrocles and Musidorus and the fortune of the Duke of Arcadia. So the plot is here, Montemayor's Diana, not the plot, but where it was taken from, that was the Spanish romance of Montemayor. So was a major inspiration for Philip Sidney in writing the new Arcadia. And Montemayor's influence was noticed early by Sidney's contemporary. Also, it was written by others. So remember that this Arcadia, this is one of the important point also, because whenever you read a particular work, you should first know about where it was taken, where how this work is inspired by the particular work. So that's why there is contextual background, historical background of the work, and of course you have to remember the important characters in the work, and a couple of quotes which are famous at that time. So these important aspects of a particular work that you should remember before reading anything. So Shakespeare also used an episode from Arcadia as the source of the for the Gloucester subplot in King Lear. So another important point are mentioned here, because in one of the PYQs we saw that the subplot of Gloucester is taken from where. So it was actually from Arcadia, Sydney's work, that in King Lear, no, there is one Gloucester, right? We talked about he had two sons. One was bastard, his name was Edmund, and another was his real son, whose name was Edgar. What in the play, Edmund plotted against his brother, and he said that Edgar is planning to kill Gloucester. That plot, I hope you remember. And in that way, Edgar has to flee because he has ordered son to capture and kill him, right? And so that's why he ran away, and he disguised himself in as beggar, right? So that was also a question they asked from King Lear, and through that we will understand that plot of Gloucester was actually taken from a real source was Arcadia, Philip Sidney's Arcadia. And again, there was one more work, The Seven Books of Diana, is a pastoral romance written in Spanish by Portuguese author George de Montemayor, and that is actually the real source of the work Arcadia. I hope it is clear. You can write in the comment box clear, then we can start match the following. Great. Okay, great. So question number 29 is here, and in 29 there is there are two lists, and that we have to find which one who belongs, or actually it is the list of work. List second is the list of work. List first is the author here. Tell me how many of you is known about Salim Ali, Jim Corbett, Kailash Sankha, and M. Krishna. And The Fall of the Sparrow is a novel by Salim Ali. Great. And in this engaging autobiography, India's greatest. So we just need to know only about the work. I don't think they'll ask a little bit deeper from it. So this book, My India, is by Jim Corbett, and Wild Beauty is a study of Indian wildlife by Kailash Sankhala, and Night and Days, My Book of India's Wildlife, is by M. Krishnan. Question number 30. A.L. Stevenson, Alfred Lord Tennyson, you should remember in the following line: yet I doubt not through the ages one increasing purpose runs, and the thoughts of man are widened with the process of the sun. What it reflects? It reflects upon evolutionary faith. So for that we don't have explanation here. Question number 31. Identify the novels that were published in 80s and 90s. Quite important. For that you have to remember really about historical and chronological order of the particular even author. If you remember, That will be easy for you. The Circle of Reason, Red Earth, Pouring Rain, The Ghost of Vasu Master, Mughal Street, The Siege of Babylon. So I just want to ask about the name of the author of particular work. Then we'll move about the dates. So the Circle of Reason. Tell me who wrote it. Everybody knows. I mean, most of you are aware of the work, The Circle of Reason. A Circle of Reason is actually famous because of the because it is about a terrorist. No, in the work, it is about a terrorist who actually, what happens, leaves India for Northern Africa in the Middle East. So remember that The Circle of Reason is by Amitabh Ghosh, and it was written in 1986. So somewhere it is between 1980s and 90s. So now we got the answer. One is certainly there, which is The Circle of Reason, and another work is Mughal Street, and that you have to tell me who wrote it. And suppose it is a work. First of all, we know the author, and that is written by V.S. Naipaul, and the Mughal Street is written by V.S. Naipaul, and we know Naipaul is from Trinidad and Tobago. He's Caribbean author, Indian origin, and we know that he is written this around 1950s, 60s maybe. We'll just check in the explanation. Anyway, The Siege of Babylon is by, that I am not aware of. We'll just check it out who wrote this. And the other work started The Red Earth of Pouring Rain, and that work is written by Vikram Chandra, and Vikram Chandra has written very important works also. And that work, why it is mentioned here, and it is recent book, so you can just say it is in 90s, so that might be our answer also. And in the explanation we have A, B and C. So A, B and C are the work written in 1980s and 1990s. And here a little bit Vikram Chandra, about Vikram Chandra is here, and that work, Red Earth of Pouring Rain, also won Commonwealth write-up. So in many cases, whatever the work it is mentioned here, they might have won some award, or in literary world they might be important work. That's why they are asking related. The Circle of Reason, certainly it's very important because it's about a terrorist, for an Indian protagonist who's suspect of being a terrorist, leave India for Northern Africa and the Middle East. And another is Geeta Hariharan's The Ghost of Vasu Master. And Geeta Hariharan is Indian writer based in New Delhi, and her first novel, The Thousand Faces of Night. So we have to remember that as well. So won Commonwealth Writer Prize for the best first novel in 1993, and her other works include the short story collection The Art of Dying, the novel The Ghost of Vasu Master, which was published in 1994. What I'm gonna do, I'll just give you this explanation in your WhatsApp. Great, so it's there in your WhatsApp. The other explanation, Mughal Street, which is a collection of short story by V.S. Naipaul, published in 1959. So it is in 50s, not uh, 60s or 70s. So that's why the Siege of Babylon is the very uh, old work, and that would have been in easy. If you would have known this, the Siege of Babylon, you could have eliminated that. And where is E? In almost this you could and this, so you would have left with 2. And also, as I said, there is C option. The Ghost of Vasu Master is by Hariharan, Geeta Hariharan. Through that you could have answer. Anyway, again another statement type question is, which among the following are true about Harold? Everybody know that Harold Pinter is quite famous dramatist, and he was born in 1925. Is this correct? And he was influenced by Samuel Beckett and the theater of absurd. We can definitely go that it is Harold Pinter is associated with theater of absurd. So that we have to for us this is plus point. So we can say, where is B option? Only in 2 options, so these 2 we could eliminate. And he again, it is asking the Caretaker and the Alchemist are his famous plays. So what do you think? Alchemist, okay, the Caretaker is written by him, but we don't know the Alchemist is written by Ben Jonson. So definitely it is not. Where is C? We can just remove this option. We are left with only this, and that is our answer. And Stanley is a character in the birthday party. Everybody knows, and Stanley is kind of, it stands very important characters in theater, and Stanley is a character in the birthday party. So we are left with B, D, and E also. Betrayal is a story of married couple. So Harold Pinter was not born in 1925, but he born in 30. So remember that some questions are you might find how will know somebody's date, but remember it is just through option. No, you don't have to even read about it. You have to just eliminate which could not be. So again, the Caretaker and the Alchemist, she is not here, so these 2 option is eliminated by the Alchemist. And again, he was influenced by Samuel Beckett theater of absurd. You have to find where is B. So B is only in this 2 option, so automatically you found the answer. You didn't have to look for this where when he was born. So through that judgment you can really make the right choice. And when it happens, and if you're a newbie, if you're attending your net, or even if you have done it before, remember PYQ helps you to gain this skill of eliminating and finding which one is correct. So that's why you have to really do PYQ as much as you can. So for that, we have already in your Google Classroom, you just can go attend the exam, and there you'll also find explanation for everything. So I hope this helps, and now we'll just move to the correct explanation, little bit about Harold Pinter, and that we really need to, whatever you can read about Harold Pinter, it's very important. The date, he was born in actually 1930s and he died in 2008 London. He was English playwright, and his dramas are somewhere related to, and who achieved international renown as one of the most complex and challenging post-World War II dramatists. And his plays are noted for their use of understatement, small talk, reticence, and even silence to convey the substance of a character's thought, which often lies several layers beneath and contradict his speech. One of the important thing about Harold Pinter is that he won Nobel Prize for Literature in 2005. So that statement is quite important. And theater of the absurd, that is where he that is what he is associated with. And we know the important pioneer of the theater of the absurds are who it is. Samuel Butler, Samuel Beckett, Eugene Ionesco, Jean Genet, and Arthur Adamov, and of course Harold Pinter. And the theater of the absurd actually started with the myth of Sisyphus in his. So this term was actually coined by Albert Camus in his essay The Myth of Sisyphus. That is also a very important point that you have to remember, or you should know about. So humankind in this view, according to the statement, it's like we are talking about the theater of absurd, and it is humankind in this way is left feeling hopeless, bewildered. And in Harold Pinter's many of the work, the characters are like that. They are quite pessimistic, they are quite hopeless, and they always struggle with to cope up with the growing world. So that is the main theme of. And in The Caretaker, which is the 3-act play by Harold Pinter, published and produced in 1960, and it is actually a full-length play, and it concerns the delicate balance between trust and betrayal in familial relationship. The Birthday Party, which is 3-act drama by Pinter and produced in 58 and published in 1959. And one of the important thing also about Pinter's is that his plays are trademark of comedy of menace, not only the absurd but comedy of menace. I hope you got the answer. Anyway, now we'll talk about question number 33. Again, it is about two statements we have to find. This time we don't have to find for if we don't need to add because it is not assertion and reason question. It is just based on two statements. We have to find if both are correct, if both are incorrect, or one is correct or two is incorrect. So these are the option. So ask, he who discovers no God whatever, how shall he discover heroes and the visible temples of God, is a statement by Thomas Carlyle. And remember that Thomas Carlyle is a member for like 3 to 4 works, very important works. One was Heroes, right? The Hero and Heroes, and there was one more work, French Revolution, and these kind of. So through Heroes we got the keyword, okay, this will be the true statement. Could be true because on the Hero and Heroes, right, he wrote the book about it. And another work was French Revolution. And second statement, it is not that men are ill-fed, but they have no pleasure in the work by which they make their bread. And furthermore, look to wealth as the only means of pleasure, is a statement made by John Ruskin. Is that true? That we have to find out. And John Ruskin wrote, of course, about aestheticism that we know, and his very famous work is called the Unto This Last. So actually this statement is from that itself. So the answer is like both the statements are correct, and we have the explanation on Heroes and Hero Worship and the Heroic in History by Thomas Carlyle, John Ruskin, Unto This Last. It is the whole quote is here. There you will find actually this was not from Unto This Last, but this was from the Stones of Vanish, book 6, Venice, the Nature of Gothic, paragraph 15. So whole explanation is there, and it was found in the Stone of Venice. Again, now we have to find who is related to who. So very important thing you should understand, you have to find out which one do you know. Everybody know about the last sati, because you might have faced this related to this question in your PYQ also. And the last sati everybody knows that it is by Kipling, that who talked about the sati, whatever there was one tradition, right, about the sati, where wife has to die if her husband is no more. So the last sati is by Kipling. And another work, like one important we have to find about the Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, we know he is related to aestheticism. He talks about the beauty and all. So obviously the answer for that, Oscar Wilde actually wrote at Verona. So answer is here. It's actually dropped because it was quite confusing in the option was not matching here, so that question was dropped. We have the answer, William Sidney Porter, who wrote The Gift of Maggie, The Duplicity of, I hope everybody knows about that. And his original name is O. Henry, and O. Henry wrote The Gift of Maggie. I hope you know the story about it, because in that what happens, he sells his watch to get something about related to like his wife's, something with hair or chain, and the girl cut his hair to cut her hair to surprise, something like that. There's a very good story about The Gift of Maggie. If you don't know, you can just read through in internet. Very quite engaging story, and you might face some of the question related to it also. I'll just read out one small plot related to it, The Gift of the Maggie. So it is about a wife and a husband, okay, how they deal with the challenges of buying secret Christmas gift for each other with a very little money. They had very little money to, and that's a quite beautiful story. And of course, if you read it, you will understand how they really take care of each other, and every couple also has to take care of each other. So as a sentimental story with a moral lesson about the gift giving, so the story was like a very small plot is there. I'm just gonna read out because we missed one story. As I said, we start every class with a story, and today we didn't talk about. Now we'll just have one small story about this couple. So on Christmas Eve, what happened? Della Young, that is her name, discovers that she has only $1.87 to buy a present for her husband Jim, and she visits the nearby shop of a hairdresser, Madame Sophronie, who buys Della's long hair for $20. And Della then uses the money to buy a platinum pocket watch chain for Jim. When Jim comes home from work that evening, Della admits to him that she sold her hair to buy him the chain. Then Jim gives Della her present, a set of ornamental combs which she will be able to use until her hair grows back. So Della gives Jim the watch chain and he tells her that he sold the watch to buy the comb. And while the gifts that Jim and Della gave each other cannot be used, they know how far they went to show each other their love and how invaluable their love truly is. So the story ends with the narrator comparing these sacrificial gifts of love with those of the biblical Maggie. So that is the story of the gift of the Maggie. And he also wrote Hard to Forget, which is here in the option. Anyway, the Rudyard Kipling wrote about this last sati, and not many years ago, a king died in one of the Rajput estate, and his wife disregarded the orders of the English against sati, who have broken out of the palace and burned themselves with the corpse had not the gate been barred. So that is all about the last of Sati, and the first version of the Picture of Dorian Gray had published as the lead story on the duration. And anyway, so it is the story of begins with a man painting a picture. I think you are aware of the plot of the Picture of Dorian Gray. If not, you can just read it. The story begins with a man painting a picture of Gray. When Gray, who has a face like ivory, rose and leaves, sees his finished portrait, he breaks down and distraught that his beauty will fade while the portrait stays beautiful. Then what he does, he sells his soul that he should stay young, and instead of he getting aged, it should the painting of his should grow old. So he inadvertently makes a Faustian bargain in which only the painted image grows old while he stays beautiful and young. For while the purpose of the art would be to guide life, as in beauty alone were its object, as Gray's portrait allows him to escape the corporeal ravages of his hedonism, and while he sought to juxtapose the beauty he saw in art with daily life. At Verona is a poem by Oscar Wilde. Opening line is given below. How steep the stars within kings' houses are for exile wearied feet as mine to tread, and oh how salt and bitter is the bread. So question number 35 is in your screen again. Which of these graphic narratives depicts a political crisis? The answer is Art Spiegelman and Moss. Art Spiegelman Moss. Joe Sacco, Footnote in Gaza. And Footnote in Gaza is a very important journalistic graphic narrative by Joe Sacco and about bloody incident between Israelis and Palestinians in Gaza. So in that, because of that, it's very important. The Footnote in Gaza. And Moss is a graphic novel by American Cut. So remember, in 2022, actually they asked about the graphic novel in 2022, but in 2023, I think they didn't ask about it. So maybe you have a chance that in 2023, whatever the upcoming exam is going to happen, you should remember that they might ask about the this graphical novel. So what I'm gonna do, I'll just copy this and post it in your group. That is our important topic, and your today's work is you have to find out about it and of course send it in the group. I just put everything here, and you have to write with, I mean, at least one or two sentence about each work. Okay, got it? So other explanation is Amrita Patil's car is perhaps the only graphical novel of its kind. A young professional finds herself barely surviving Mumbai's smog city. Corridor is again Indian graphical novel. What was the question? Depicts a political crisis. So remember, all of these are graphical novel, and here it asks which depicts political crisis. So through the name we can understand Footnote in Gaza would be about politics. So 3 was your answer. And Art Spiegelman by Moss Spiegelman as again it depicts his father about his experience of Polish Jew. So these both are like Jewish work. So these two we have the answer. So remember that I have posted all these graphical novel. You have to remember, and also you have to write in our WhatsApp group. What 2 sentences enough for every option. Got it? So graphical novel, there are chances that you might face this question once again. So other explanation is about, that is your homework. And again, list 1, list 2 is there. In list 1 we have the name of the poet, and in list 2 we have the poem. So in simple way, Philip Larkin, everybody knows, is the North Ship, right? And we have to find first, where is B4? B4 is where? It's only in one option. Very simple, you just mark it right. So it doesn't matter if you don't know the other option. If you know 1 or 2, that will definitely help. You only have to know 2 in match the following. 2 things you have to know, and if you know that, one of them will help. So if you knew Philip Larkin, it was the North Ship, you would have answered easily. Got it? So tell me how many of you know about the North Ship, that it was by Philip Larkin. Tell in the chat quickly, so I will know that this class is not Oh, that's nice, Nitish Kumar. Nitish says that the class is good, and there is one anti-hero and says wonderful explanation, but my voice shouldn't kiss. Okay, that's a very good suggestion, and that I have actually got from many people, that my voice is quite down. Anyway, I'll just try. It's morning now, I just woke up and just started classes. Anyway, we'll just start, and I'll follow anti-hero's advice, and I'll just move the way he and everybody wants. So that's really good. We can just move to the question number here. Everybody, like, if you know about North Ship, you would have answered this easily. And a little bit explanation about it. So the Shire is a collection of poems by Donald Dive. The North Ship is also a collection of poems by Philip Larkin, and it was published in 1945 by Reginald A. Catton's Fortune Press. The last of these the North Ship is a set of 5 poems tracking a ship's northward progress. of the 30 single poem. Only 7 have titles in the 1966. So you just have to remember North Ship is by Philip Larkin. It is a collection of poems published in 1945. And Against Romanticism is a poem by Kingsley Amis. And Hurry On Down is by Wayne's first and to some critic the best novel. Got it? Question number 37 is here in your screen. We already studied 1 hour, but we'll try to finish 50 and then we'll just wind up the class, and tomorrow we'll try to cover 30 more, and if possible we'll just finish shift 1 of 2022. So a statement here, one statement says comparative literature is a study of different cultures, nations and genres. It explores the inherent relationship between literature and other forms of cultural exploration. And a statement second, in the study of literature and culture, the importance of mythology is secondary. So what could be the comparative literature? Here they are talking about comparative literature, and in the statement 1 we have comparative literature, and it says is a study of different culture, is it, nations and genre. It explored the inherent relationship between literature and other forms of cultural exploration. So when it comes to comparative literature, we should understand that it is somehow talking about cultural thing, and with that we can just answer that first is could be the right one, and we have the explanation for it. Both seems right to me, and tell me if you have any doubt. So here in the explanation, comparative literature is an academic field dealing with the studying literature and cultural expression across linguistic, national, geographic and disciplinary. So that first is correct, and comparative literature also performs a role similar to that of the study of international relations, but works with language and artistic tradition, so as to understand cultures from the inside, while most frequently practiced with works of different languages. And comparative literature may also be performed on the works of the same language if the work originates. So both statements seems true here. And which of the following critics is associated with the term contrapuntal reading? Contrapuntal reading. What does it mean? Contrapuntal. Let me see. It is contrapuntal reading means reading a text with an understanding of what is involved when an author shows, for instance, that a colonial sugar plantation is seen as important to the process of maintaining a particular style of life in England. So contrapuntal reading is associated with Edward Said. Very new question, and we know terms of Edward Said, but this is something different here, and I'll just post this in your group, this question, so you'll just find out about it. Okay, that is your homework there. Good, post it. Now here talking who are the poet laureate. It should be quite easy for you if you know one or two. Robert Bridge, as we know, he is related to like war poems and all, and he was very important poet laureate in England. So of course Robert Bridge we know is so here two options we know. Oscar Wilde was not poet laureate, and Robert Bridge was poet laureate. So if you know these two options, we can just move to the finding the eliminating. So where is B? If we have to find where in the option we find B. So in B we see three options. We can just eliminate these two. It is not. And Oscar Wilde, where is D? This will also eliminate it. So we are left with one option, which was A and B. This is, I just extra added that because in question you only get 4 options. So A and B. Simple. Alfred Austin and Robert Bridge are the 2 poet laureate. And little bit explanation. Alfred Austin, English poem, life span 1835 to 1913, and he became poet laureate in 1896, and he actually became after Tennyson, the death of Tennyson, and when the other candidate had their caused controversial or refused the honor. So Robert Bridge, as we talked, he's an English poet and who was poet laureate from 1913 to 1930. So a doctor by training, he achieved literary fame only later. Remember, he mainly wrote poems about the war. So that's why he is quite important, and he became poet laureate also. His poems reflect a deep Christian faith, and he is the author of many well-known hymns. And it was through Bridges' effort that G.M. Hopkins achieved posthumous fame. Again, other explanation is that Theodore Watt, he was not poet laureate. He was just English poetry critic with major periodical and a poet himself. Oscar Wilde here, as we know, he was a writer, poet, and also playwright. And we know his important novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and he was and the circumstances of criminal conviction for gross indecency for consensual homosexual acts in one of the first celebrity trials. Anyway, so the list of poet laureate I have collected, and everything began with Dryden, right? So remember the first one, Dryden, and the last. So whatever you study, you should first focus on the first, John Dryden, and the last is Simon Armitage. And then we can just move to the other. We know that there was a fight between both Dryden and Sadwell, and first John Dryden, and then it was Thomas Sadwell. So they were bitter literary enemy to each other, and John Dryden has many work and where Sadwell was modeled, and Nahum Tate, Nicholas Raw, Lawrence Usden, Colley Cibber, you remember, he wrote about the theater, like all the bad thing happening in theater, he talked about that. And William Whitehead, Thomas Wharton, Henry James Pryor, Robert Southey. So Robert Southey was also William Wordsworth. We know he became poet laureate, and then who replaced him? It was Tennyson. And then we studied in this question, it was Lord Alfred Austin, and then Robert Bridge. Then John Masefield, Cecil D. Lewis, Sir John Benjamin, Ted Hughes, Andrew Motion, Carol Duffy, and eventually we have Simon Armitage. So I hope this list helps. And question number 40, beside being a playwright, who among the following has translated Homer? We know Homer because of Chapman and his work. So he actually translated Homer. So there are you might have faced, and also Pope also translated Homer in poetic things, right? And Pope was also there. So to make you confused, they find it's kind of easy question because we know about Chapman's Homer. It's quite famous work, and Chapman was English dramatist, translator, and poet. And Chapman is best remembered for his translation of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and the Homeric I don't know this word. We can just Batrachomio Homeric. You just remember that Chapman's Homer, very famous. We know Homer mostly because of Chapman also. And identity, so you have to identify the correct combination of among the following. So tell me, so these are particular work, and here is related. Is Demons a novel or Landlady a novel? The Crocodile is a short story, A Writer's Diary an essay, and Mary Stuart translation. So if you compare to the 2023 and 2022 exam, 2022 was quite they had really good question, and the standard was high in 2022, whereas 2023 comparatively was easy. And I've heard, and after some research, it says, I found out that exam is only going to be easy, but the competition is going to be higher, because when the exams are easy, it is hard to qualify, because many people will score high, and of course the cutoff will go higher. So because of that, you should actually pray the question should be good one, not easy one, but should be good standard, where like you guys have studied so much, right? And so you will have more advantage in that. So wish that, don't wish for easy questions. It will only increase cutoff. So anyway, it's not in our hands, we'll just leave it for them. So the answer is drop. And why it is drop? We have Demons is The Possessed of the Devil is novel by Fyodor Dostoevsky. So here everything is by Dostoevsky here. So one work is actually verse play by Friedrich Schiller, others are by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and all of them are short stories. Demons is a novel. The Landlady is novella. The Crocodile is a short story. A Writer's Diary is a collection of non-fiction by Fyodor Dostoevsky. So and these all four are written by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and Mary Stuart is verse play by Friedrich Schiller. Question number 42, we have, which of the following are not forms of flash fiction? Again, see, they have asked really good question in 2021. Which of these are not forms of flash fiction? So what does flash fiction mean? First of all, flash fiction is a fictional work of extreme brevity and still offers character and plot development. So it identified varieties, many of them defined by word count, include the 6-word story or the 280 character story, also known as Twitterature, and the dribble, also known as Nimzaga, 50 words, and the drabble, also known as. So these are the word. First of all, we should know 6-word story, the 280 character story is Twitterature. So in like Twitter, sometime you have like limited text to write, and within that text, if you write a story, you will be called a Twitterature. Got it? Twitterature. And the dribble is known as, which has 50 words. 6-word story or 280 characters. Here dribble is 50 words or maybe more. So mini saga. So that is your saga story. Mini saga will be written the story in 50. Can anyone write story in 6 word or 280 characters. If you can write, you can just write in our WhatsApp group or chat box itself, but not right now. Anyway, mini saga is 50 word story, and the drabble is called 100 word story, and sudden fiction is called 750 words, and flash fiction is 1000 words, and micro story. So not only that, but we have extra explanation of all these things. Got it? Great. 8 more questions to go, and then we'll wind up the class. Which among the following is true about the Tractarian movement? Tractarian is all related to the Oxford movement, and it was also called the Tractarian, and it was widespread across the world. And the other leaders of movement were Paul Newman, of course, but R.H. Broad, I don't know, we'll just find out. The movement began with a sermon by Sir John Cabell in 1833, and Percy gave the movement cohesion, fame, and a name. And the ideal of Christian church was praised by Oxford Convention. So if you know any one of these about the Tractarian movement, the answer will be easy. Like I said, it is called the movement, and we know one major leader in the Tractarian movement or Oxford movement was Paul Newman. So with that, we can just see where is B is only in 2 options. So with that, we can answer A. It was not widespread, but it was only in Oxford, in England, you can say. So A could be eliminated. So where is A eliminated? These 2. So these we are left with this answer. Easy. So the Oxford movement was high church members of the Church of England, which began in 1830s and eventually developed into Anglo-Catholicism. And the movement, whose original devotee were mostly associated with the University of Oxford, and argued the reinstallment of some older Christian faith tradition and their inclusion into Anglican liturgy and theology. And our answer is all lies here. And the movement's philosophy was known as Tractarianism. After its series of publication, the Tracts of the Time, leaders of the movement were John Henry Newman, as I told you, if you know the answer, Richard Hurrell, clergyman John Cabell, and Edward Percy. So that is, again, Cabell and Percy remained active leaders of the movement, gradually spread. So if you know only one, you don't have to read everything. You don't have to know all the statement. 1 or 2 will certainly help you even to crack hard, very difficult question, right? And question number 54, easy one. Miss Cavardale translated the Old Testament of Bible. Very important at 1535. 1535 was the first complete modern English translation of the Bible and the first complete printed translation. And I have all the so actually we'll just move to the question number 45. According to Roland Barthes, which of the following codes are common? And it's very important because of his very important work, which is like the reading, and there's one very important SNZ, right? It is actually taken from that, and they have the code proerectic code and hermeneutic code and symbolic code. These 3, actually he talked about 5 codes, and the 5 codes are here, and it is taken from Barthes SNZ. And these codes are hermeneutic, proeretic, semantic, symbolic, cultural. So remember these code, you can just make it in a in some code here in chat box, right? Anyone is there this in code? Write quickly. We are already in 10 minutes. We have to finish this class, okay? HP 2SC. So write some code there to remember: hermeneutic, proeretic, semantic, symbolic, and cultural. Okay, question number 46. Which of the following concepts are associated with Bharat Muni? Sport. So theory of sport we have to find is related to what? So associated with Bhartrhari theory of sport. Sport comes with dhwani, that we know, and the other we have to find. So sport dhwani is where, see, if you know only one, you could answer. So see, where is dhwani? Only two options. One A, C and E actually are answer, and another has A. So why A is not? We have one explanation. Remember, spota is etymologically derived from the root spurt, which is burst, and it is used in its technical linguistic sense by Patanjali, 2nd century BCE, and it actually in reference to the bursting forth of meaning or idea on the mind as language is uttered. Patanjali's spota is the invariable quality of speech. So when it is talking about speech, it is definitely they are talking about dhwani. So again, Sabda Brahman or Sabda Brahman or Nada Brahman means transcendental sound. So Shabda also comes. So through also that we could have answer. Rasa is something different. Alankara is all about what we get out of it. The affect. These are the affect. Alankara also. Vakroti also. Shabda and Dhwani both are related to word spota. So it would have been easy to answer if we would have paid little more attention in the question. Alright, and we have now question number 47. Stuart Hall belongs to simple Birmingham school. And why Birmingham? That you remember the word CCC, right? The culture, the British cultural studies of Birmingham School of Cultural Studies, very important. CSS something, CC, triple CS, and they have asked about this in both shift in 2023. So Stuart Hall is actually a Jamaican born British Marxist and cultural theorist and political activist, and along with he was not, it was actually Hogarth who found that CCCS, and Hall was his student, and eventually Hall took over Richard Hogarth. So was one of the founding figures of a school of thought that is now known as British Cultural Studies or the Birmingham School of Cultural Studies. So in the 1950s, Hall was a founder of the influential New Left Review. At Hogarth's invitation, he joined the Center of Contemporary Cultural Studies at Birmingham University. So in the first shift, they ask about the full form of this CCCS, and in the second shift they asked about where. So it was Birmingham School. So that was the question. Maybe in 2024 they will ask about who belong to which. So they might ask about Stuart Hall or Hogarth or one Jalum McRobbie. Got it. And we have question number 48 here, and it says we have to match, and in list 1 we have the play, and in list 2 we have the dates. Again, whatever you read, you should remember which one is the first and the last work of particular writer, author, dramatist, poet, critic, whoever. Got it? So, Macbeth, Julius Caesar, Othello, and Hamlet. One thing you should understand: the masterpiece pieces of was actually in his later career and middle career, Shakespeare's. And there we should understand that Hamlet was somewhere published in 1600 or 1599, somewhere between that. And Macbeth was quite later work, and after definitely 1660s, and Othello was the recent one. It was somewhere published in 1604. So if you know, we know that Macbeth is the it was the latest of all these. So we can just, one is only the option here, Macbeth. B1 if you can find somewhere, B1. So it seems we have, it was actually a drop question, and I have added the correct one here with extra option. So it was actually, the date of his, because it didn't ask what he's asking. It is about publication, or it is about the performance. Of course it is or it is about written. So quite confusing question itself. They would have mentioned in the instruction about something, but anyway, and they some work are written with 2 years, like 1519 to 1600, like Hamlet, and because of that it was quite confusing. Maybe that's why the question was dropped and we had answer here. Hamlet, everybody knows it has 5 acts, and it is about Prince Hamlet, and the date is here 1519 to 1601 and published in 1603. And here Macbeth is that I said that's a recent one. I mean, the latest work of the others, the later work. So 1606 to 07. Julius Caesar, which was of course again 5 acts and produced in 1519 to 1600. Othello, it's about the Moor of Venice, and it is published somewhere between 1603 to 8. So these kind of questions you might face, where the options are very confusing, and you might get full marks for that as well. And always it happens in shift second that you get more drop questions. I don't know why, but it has been happening. Question number 49. The heroic couplet is what? Couplet is simple, which rhyme, and whatever rhyme, and when it comes to heroic, it should have 10 syllable lines that rhyme. So of course this option you can just eliminate because it says that it doesn't rhyme, and heroic couplet is always rhyme. And the best example of these heroic couplets are Geoffrey Chaucer's Legend of Good Woman and the Canterbury Tales, John Dryden's and Alexander Pope's, all of their work. They wrote everything in rhyme. And English heroic couplet, especially Dryden and his followers, sometime the use of occasional Alexandrian hexameter line and triplet. What is iambic pentameter? Pentameter means 5, and poetic meter, iambic pentameter distinguishes a heroic couplet from a. Each iamb has 2 and 1 unstressed syllable and 1 stressed syllable. Last question of the session is here: a man can be destroyed but not defeated. Everybody knows that it is from the Old Man and the Sea, and what it means. Destroy Ernest Hemingway, the Old Man. A simple question. Question number 51 will go tomorrow, and I hope you like the class, and will see you in we'll see you in paper 1 class. Be there at 2 o'clock. Got it? And we'll have also criticism. We are going to talk about, I think, uh, neoclassical criticism, right? So be there. I have uh, time would be a little bit different, like sometime 4:15 or 4:20, or maybe only not more than that. And for 2 o'clock class, we might go 2:10 or 15 or 20, maybe 2:30. So be there. That class might be a little long because we are talking about paper 1, and we have only one day today that we have to finish unit 1. Then we'll be able to focus on the other unit as well. So thank you so much. I'll see you at 2 o'clock. Bye bye. Have a great day. Thanks.